Welcome to the Private School Leader Podcast, where private school leaders learn how to thrive and not just survive as they serve and lead their schools. I strongly believe that it is possible to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And my passion is to help you figure out how to do just that right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Minkus. So we've all heard the old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. But we also know that we all do that every single day. And of course, the meaning of that saying is that when we meet a person for the first time, that we should not make snap judgments about that person just based on their outward appearance, but we should get to know them and get to know their character and their personality traits and their attitude and just get to know them on the inside. So I get it. That's the meaning. But the saying is, you can't judge a book by its cover. And I'm going to say it again. We do that every day. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So literally with books, I know that bookstores are kind of a dying breed, but if you go into a bookstore, if you go into the library and you're looking at books, one catches your attention, you look at the cover and, maybe you pick up that book and buy it or check it out at the library. And back when in the 90s and early 2000s, when Blockbuster and was still a thing, you go to Blockbuster and you decide whether or not you're going to rent a video, largely based on kind of the picture that's on the front of the DVD or the VHS, depending on how far back you go. But now what do we have? Well, we have thumbnails on Netflix or Amazon. We have thumbnails of YouTube videos, and those little pictures, and maybe just a word or two or the title underneath that thumbnail, we literally judge a book by its cover and decide whether to click on that, check it out, and to watch it. And when we come to the homepage of your website, I really believe that that is the most important piece of digital content at your school. So let me say that again. I believe that the homepage of your website is the most important piece of digital content at your school. And so think about it. It's the portal for prospective families. They want to be checking out schools in your area. And when prospective families check out your homepage, do they just keep going onto the next school on their Google search, or does it draw them in? They're judging a book by its cover, and we want to make sure when it comes to the cover, the homepage, that we are presenting something that's inviting and something that's going to get their attention and keep their attention so that they stay on our homepage and explore our website. So how do we do that? Well, on today's episode of the Private School Leader Podcast, we are going to answer the following question. Does the homepage of your school's website answer these 5 questions? Before we get into today's topic, I've created a free resource for you. I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast by giving you this guide. It's called The 6 Things That Every Private School Teacher Wants from Their Leader. And this is a 6-page PDF that I think can be a real game changer for you. And I guarantee you that if you do these 6 things, that the teachers at your independent school will be happy to follow you. And you can get that guide by going to theprivateschoolleader.com/guide, the 6 things every private school teacher wants from their leader. Go grab that at theprivateschoolleader.com/guide for free. And thank you as always for listening to the podcast. And I just want to ask a couple quick questions. As a private school leader, your job is very, very difficult. And are you feeling tired? Are you feeling discouraged? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Do you ever feel like the pace that you keep at your school is just not sustainable? And does the school tend to invade your weeknights, your weekends? And one more question, does it seem to you like work-life balance is a myth? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, then I want you to check out Thrive Academy. And Thrive Academy is a new online course that I created just for you, just for private school leaders. And it will help you get out of survival mode and get back to feeling energized and fulfilled at school. And I used to be where you are. Maybe you're not there yet, but I was once in the hospital with ulcers, and I've been diagnosed with severe burnout, and I have stress-induced vertigo, and I made a lot of mistakes over the years and dealt with a lot of regrets with interacting with my wife and my daughters. But I figured it out, and I figured out how to make it better, and it's been better for about 11 or 12 years. And I want to teach you how to make it better. So Thrive Academy is an online course with 39 lessons and over 9 hours of video content and an 86-page workbook with guided notes, reflection questions, calls to action, and you get live office hours on Zoom for the first 6 weeks. So I really believe that Thrive Academy can change your life, and you don't have to make all the same mistakes that I made. I want to teach you how to go from surviving to thriving, and you can check that out over at theprivateschoolleader.com/thrive. Thrive Academy is at theprivateschoolleader.com/thrive. All right, so let's jump into today's topic. I started today's episode by saying that we don't judge a book by its cover. We know that saying, and I reminded you that we do that all the time. And so now I want to go a little deeper and tell you exactly what the statistics say, what the research says about judging a book by its cover when it comes to the homepage of a website of a typical business. So check this out. So according to Sweor.com, SWEOR.com, I've actually linked a blog post from them in the show notes at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 74. But anyways, according to Sweor.com, it takes about 50 milliseconds, that's 0.05 seconds, for a user to form an opinion about your website that determines whether they like your site or not and whether they will stay or leave. So 50 milliseconds for some users to form an opinion about your website. And then other research shows that on average, a person stays on a website homepage for the average is somewhere between 42 to 55 seconds, depending on which study you look at. That's not very long. That's not very long for you to make a first impression and get people to be more interested in what your school has to offer. And so we need to do a really, really good job with the homepage of our website. And so just before I give you the content, the 5 questions, and then of course we're going to answer each of them, and I'm going to give you some really practical tips on how to maybe look at your homepage and ask these questions, and if it doesn't answer those questions, how to make it better. But just for a moment, let's consider what are the 2 things that your homepage is supposed to do. Well, number 1, it's supposed to engage and inform visitors, and number 2, provide clear direction. So your homepage is supposed to engage and inform visitors, and number 2, provide clear direction. So engage and inform. So draw them in, something that's enticing, something that, and we'll talk about images versus text and infographics and all of that here coming up in a few minutes. But what is something that can just draw them in? Is it compelling? Is it a user-friendly homepage that entices the website visitor to stay for longer than that 45 or 52 seconds? And then they want to explore and learn more about your school, because the whole goal is attention, to just keep them there a little bit longer so that they'll click and go to look at curriculum, or to look at the sports that you offer, or to look at some things about your mission statement, or maybe to look at the welcome or the about page. Just compelling and draw them in, engage and inform. And then obviously what your goal is that whether it's that visit or it makes an impression and then they come back for a future visit to your homepage, that the goal, of course, is for them to click on virtual visit or inquire or plan or schedule a tour or schedule a visit. You want them to take action. And so engage and inform. And then the second thing is to provide clear direction. So some of us as school leaders and some people that are website designers, and I just want to pause for a moment and acknowledge that as a head of school, as a school leader in your private school, you're very likely not the person who designed your website. Maybe it was a company that designed it for you, that you contracted with, or maybe it was your IT person that kind of does some web design on the side and you paid them a stipend, or, and they did that. So I'm not saying that it was you that created this, but it's you that are responsible. You are responsible for the message and for how do you have an optimized homepage on your website or not? And so all of that information that you have about your school, about why your school is so wonderful, sometimes web designers or we as private school leaders, we have this urge to just put everything about our school on that homepage. And we don't want that because that's going to be overwhelming for the user. And so it's just like how, you wouldn't have an author that would put the plot twist or the ending of the climax of the story on the cover of the novel or on the back of the novel in the description. And so we don't want to put everything out there on the homepage. So the content of the homepage should be compelling enough for them to stay, and it should also be easy to navigate and provide clear directions for prospective families and for your current families. This episode is mainly geared toward your homepage and your website being attractive and easy to navigate for prospective families. Of course, there are aspects to your website that are for your current families, and we want to optimize those as well. But really, for the purposes of this episode, it's talking about that person that is out there looking for a school, and they click on your homepage. So let's get into these 5 questions. So the title of this episode is, does the homepage of your school's website answer these 5 questions? Here they are. Number 1, what do you do? Number 2, what makes you unique? Number 3, why should I care? Number 4, will I fit in? And number 5, what do I do next? And so those will be in the show notes at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 74. And also, I got those 5 questions from a blog post from a business called Final Site. Final Site does a lot of school websites. They have a lot of cool resources on their website, finalsite.com. And so I've linked the blog post with these 5 questions, but there's a lot of other resources there on their website that are free. So you might want to check that out. Okay. So let's get into these questions. The first question is, what do you do? So I want you for a moment to use your imagination, and I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the user. So this is someone that's in another town, another city, that's moving to your area, or it's someone in your area that is unhappy with the experience that they're having at their current school for their child. All right. It also could be a family that has a child in daycare, but now they're aging up into early childhood, preschool, or kindergarten, and they're looking for a school. So the bottom line is, whether they're from out of town or from in town, this is someone that's probably sitting down and Googling private schools in blank and fill in the blank with the name of your city, or Google private schools near me. And so, Google, it's going to spit out a bunch of stuff. It's going to spit out thousands of options, and they're probably going to start geographically closest and then go geographically farther away as the list goes on. But that's the parent. They're sitting, waiting for their Starbucks order, and they're scrolling on their smartphone, or they're sitting at their kitchen table after the little ones have gone to bed, and they're on their laptop, but they've Googled private schools near me. And there's a bunch of schools. All right. So what they want to know as they're using that, as they're getting to your homepage, is what do you do? And so your school's homepage must clearly state who you are and what you do. And you might be saying to yourself, okay, like, I get it, but what do you mean? So let me just be super clear. To a prospective parent, nothing is more frustrating than Googling like best private schools near me, and then they land on a website and it doesn't tell them which grades, or is this an all-girls school? Is this an all-boys school? They're trying to decipher that from the photos. Like, is this a religious school? Is this not a religious school? So that's what I mean by what do you do, okay? And so your website visitor should not have to travel far on the homepage to learn whether you're a religious school or an all-girls or an all-boys school or a boarding school or not a boarding school, a day school, whatever. What kind of school are you, and what grades do you have? And if you're a single gender school, then that as well. And so that sounds pretty straightforward, but you would be shocked as to how many schools do not have this information on their homepage. And so one of the best ways to do that is to incorporate just a sentence or two in plain text near your logo in your website's header or footer. And, I've looked at probably thousands of private school websites over the last couple of years. And, most of them look pretty good. Some of them look fantastic, and some of them look pretty rough. And so if we're talking about answering the question, what do you do? Let me just give you 3 examples. All right. So this one was in the footer next to their logo, and it says, founded in 1841, Fordham Prep is a Catholic Jesuit secondary school, grades 9 to 12, for young men, located on the historic Rose Hill campus in the Bronx, adjacent to Fordham University. So, a user knows right away that this is a Jesuit Catholic school. It's a high school. It's a boys' school. It's got a very long history. It was founded before the start of the Civil War, and it gives a little bit about the location. And all of that was just a sentence with a couple of commas. Here's another one. Community Day School is an independent age 3 to grade 8 Jewish day school. Very simple, very straightforward. And one more. Lakeside School, an independent coeducational day school for grades 5 through 12 in Seattle. And so you might be thinking to yourself, well, that just seems obvious. It's not obvious. If someone is looking, they don't know. And what we don't want to have to do, and I might say this more than once on this episode, do not send your users, your prospective families, on a scavenger hunt to figure out what kind of school you are. That should be something that's very evident either in the header or the footer, just a sentence about what you do. And then here's the last piece, and this is like the cherry on the top of the hot fudge sundae, is that those words actually boost your SEO. And so SEO, most of you would know, stands for search engine optimization. And so think about it. If someone in Seattle, Lakeside School is an independent coeducational day school for grades 5 through 12 in Seattle, if someone's searching and they're doing a little bit more of an advanced search and they type in K to 8, or they type in all boys school, or they type in the word independent school, or they type in the word Jewish day school, the Google is going to very likely bump that up near the top, if not at the top. And so this is just great for optimizing your website for organic searches. And so again, there's a double benefit to it. It answers the question, what do you do, immediately. It reduces the frustration of the user, and it also boosts your SEO because those words that are probably keywords in the search are on your homepage, and that's going to drive Google to bump that your school nearer to or at the top of the Google search for those parents. Okay, so question number 1, what do you do? Question number 2, what makes you unique? Okay, so in other words, why, if I'm the parent, I'm asking, why should I pay to attend your school? There are other options. I'm paying my taxes to the public school system that I live in. I can send my kid there without paying tuition. Why should I pay tuition to attend your school? And listen, competition is tougher than ever, and schools have become more specialized than ever. You've got your arts schools, you've got your schools that are really focused on outdoor education, you've got schools that are really, really leaning into STEM. They're like a sci-tech kind of a school. You've got your all-girls school, all-boys school, you've got your only high schools only, you've got your boarding schools, you've got a wide range of religious schools, you've got international baccalaureate schools. Like, there's so many different types of schools out there. So what makes you unique? All right, so you're just going to think about that, and then you're just going to make sure that you're taking the approach of that you have to communicate what sets you apart and communicate that effectively. And so I want to give you 2 ways to do that I think are the best ways to go about telling people on your homepage what makes you unique. So the first is infographics. So you've seen them. They might be on your website. They probably are on many websites that you use. And, let's just say just imagine this. It's a rectangle, and it's got 8 squares in it. And then inside those squares are a number or a percentage or something. And maybe there's like a little picture next to it that's like a picture of a building or a picture of a book or a picture of a basketball or a picture of a paddle, like for crew. Okay. So an oar for, if the school has rowing or something like that. Okay. So you get the idea. It's just this little infographic. And this is just a really common way to showcase your differences in a very easy to read fashion. And so what are the typical things that you see in infographics on independent school homepages? Okay. Class size, student teacher ratio, the number of sports offered, percentage of kids that play a sport, percentage of graduates that attend a 4-year college, percentage of faculty with advanced degrees, your enrollment, how many acres is your campus, how many square feet is your building, how many community service hours did your high school students do last year. So you get the idea. Just those bite-size numbers. And really what it is that you're trying to capture the attention of the screen-fatigued families. And that's a phrase that I pulled from that blog post from Final Site, that, infographics really are easier to read than text. People have a lot of screen fatigue, and also they look good on mobile devices as a design element. And so the first way that we're going to answer the question, what makes you unique, is with infographics. And then the second is with quotes. And so think about this for a minute. If you literally asked the question, what makes our school unique? And you ask that question of some parents, some teachers, some current students, and some graduates, and you capture their answers, and then just picture that on your homepage, there's the head and shoulders shot or a close-up of the face of that person. And then right next to it, or if you click on it and it slides over, or a text box pops up, there's the quote, and you're literally like leaning into it and answering the question, what makes you unique? And I really believe that photos with a quote are very powerful, and they're even more powerful when it has the first name of the student and the first and last name of the adult, rather than just saying parent or teacher or student. I think that it's really powerful to just have it be that authenticity, that added layer of authenticity. And again, just to have it be literally what makes our school unique. They answer that question, and you pick the best answers, you edit them, and then you kind of have a little bit of a diverse look across the page, or it could be on one of those rotating carousel kind of things that you have seen, those features on a homepage, and you have those quotes. And then one last thing on this question, and again, referring back to that Final Site blog post, they said that that quotes with photos, the research shows that this is a huge key to earning trust of millennials and Gen Z in particular. And, those folks have kids now, or are going to have kids soon, many of them. And so that really resonates with them. And so why not use that to our advantage? Okay, on to question number 3. Question number 3, and we're hoping that your homepage of your website answers these questions. Question number 3 is, why should I care? So again, put yourself in the shoes of that parent scrolling on their phone, sitting at their kitchen table, looking for a school. They're already dealing with some stress and some anxiety. And why should I care about this school? So when that visitor lands on your homepage, one of the first things that they're looking for, they might not even realize it, is they want to know, why should I care about this school? Okay. So again, I just think that addressing this question head on just really helps to create a sense of need or urgency that that you don't want them to miss out, because FOMO is a real thing, fear of missing out. You want your homepage to entice them to the point that they're like, oh man, I'm missing out on something by not having my kid at this school. And so, for example, there might be, and I'm not saying this all has to be quotes, but some of this could be what I've seen recently is on the homepage, it might say, why choose us? And then there's some text there. Or it might say, why St. Mary's? Question mark. And then there's some text there. And it tells your audience that what you offer is not just another option out of a bunch of options, but it's a very significant opportunity, and it's something that's unique and different in the lives of children, and you want them to put their child in that school, right? You want them to put their child in that picture, to put their child in that quote, or to put their child in that climactic scene of being a graduate of your school and getting the same outcomes that some of those faces with those quotes of seniors or graduates or what have you, or you want them to be that satisfied parent that's saying, oh, I love this school so much. It's such a warm community. Okay. So you're really, really trying to emphasize the things that are your differentiating factors, your uniqueness, your value proposition, the things that make you unique as a school are the things that a parent should care about, because with the crowded competition out there, you got to stand out somehow. So why not lean into the thing that makes you different? And so why should your audience care? This is also kind of a mixture of informational language and inspirational and aspirational language. So kind of something from your mission statement or from your vision statement, but you want it to also feel a little bit grounded. So this one's a little tough. Like you got to really wordsmith this, but get some help with it. Ask some parents, ask some kids, ask some teachers, well, what makes us special? What's special about our school? And then that question is going to start answering itself. But does the answers that are the ones that immediately come to mind from the students, the parents, the graduates, the teachers, are those actually reflected on the website? Or if a parent gets to your website, do they just look at some photos and think, oh, well, this is a school for kids who love sports? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with emphasizing your football field and your track and your sports program, but your homepage has to tell a story, and you have a limited amount of time to do that. And so get them thinking and get them literally asking that question, what makes you different, and make sure that you're answering that question. And to just show the families that you get it, you understand their needs, and you've got a clear and compelling experience that will meet their needs. Let me say that one more time. You can, through language, by answering that question, why choose us? Why choose St. Mary's? Why choose ABC school? You can show them that you have a clear and compelling experience that you provide that can meet the needs of their children. That's going to get them clicking on your website. Now, again, what's the goal? The goal isn't necessarily that everyone that visits your homepage is going to enroll their children. We'd love for that to be 100%. But really what it is you're trying to get them to stay past that 42 seconds, past that 55 seconds, and to start clicking on other things on your website. That's the purpose of the homepage. All right. We're on 5 questions that the homepage of your school's website, does it answer these 5 questions? Number 1, what do you do? Number 2, what makes you unique? Number 3, why should I care? And number 4, will I fit in, or will my children fit in? And so what you're going to do here, what you hopefully will do, is feature some photos and videos of students who've already found a way to fit in. What do prospective families want to know? They want to know, does the school share our interests? Does the school share our goals? Does the school share our beliefs? And are there people like me at the school? So let's break those down quickly one by one. Does the school share our interests? So let's say it's art or sports or drama or outdoor education or fill in the blank. Does that school share the interests that my child has, or the interests that we have and the things we value as a family? The next one, does the school share our goals? Well, it could be that your goal is for your child to get into a U.S. News and World Report top 50 college. It could be that your goal is for your child to be a good person, or to be an elite athlete, or to be a critical thinker, or to be super, super prepared when it comes to STEM? Does the school share the goals of the family? Does the school share our beliefs? So is it a religious school? Does it value social justice? Does it value DEIB and inclusion? Does your school align with our family's values? All of those things. And then, are there people like me at that school? And that's race, that's economic status, that could be LGBTQIA, it could be a lot of things. Are there people like me? Am I going to fit in? And so how do you go about doing that? Well, of course, there's photos. And just a word about diversity in the photos. When I was a head of school for 21 years at a Christian school, we actually, the region that we live in, it's about 18% black. And we had a smaller percentage of black students in our school. And there's always that, that little bit of guilt feeling and wondering if you're being manipulative when you are putting photos on your website. What I always tried to do is to make sure that the photos were representative of what was actually at the school as far as the diversity, racial diversity. Because if you are putting photos up there and then families enroll and then they find out that it's very different, that's going to feel very inauthentic. And so I think it's important to have diversity in your photos, but I think that diversity should actually represent your student population. Maybe some great quotes from kids about fitting in. I wasn't sure, and then I came here and everyone was so welcoming and, blah, 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 things of that nature, something for everyone, so on and so forth. And then just really emphasize the student experience. And you could even have like a thing that expands or drops down. Parents care a lot when it comes to, will I fit in, about that student experience. And then that brings us to our final question. Question number 5, what do I do next? And so what you want them to do is to take action. You want them to click on the next step. And whether that next step is a virtual tour button or a request more information button, this is a must have element of your successful homepage. You have to have something that they can click on that's easy to do. And I would also encourage you to do a soft call to action rather than a harder call to action. So let me tell you what I mean. I like virtual tour or request more information or schedule a visit as buttons. I don't really like the button that says apply now. That one, that's kind of a big leap. This person, what are they doing? They're window shopping, right? They're checking out your school, other schools. So you want to keep them there. You want to keep their attention on your homepage. And so, you don't want to have something where they pause. It's just like, oh, okay, virtual tour, click, and you get a bunch of photos and some video walking around your school, whatever, however you do your virtual tour. Request more information. Now they're going to have to fill out a form and you've captured their email address and now you can start communicating with them. Those two are more of a soft call to action. But yes, you of course want to capture their email address or get their phone number so that you can convert those visitors into leads and those leads into tuition dollars and enrolled students. But I just think that a call to action button is the simplest way to do that. But I would recommend a soft call to action instead of a more. I'm not a big fan of apply now, and you may have that on your website, and that's completely fine. Just something to think about. So, 2 quick bonus tips before we wrap it up. 85% of adults think that a company's website, when viewed on a mobile device, should be as good or better than its desktop website. So let me hit you with that one more time. 85% of adults think that a company's website, when viewed on a mobile device, should be as good or better than its desktop website. So whoever's designing your website, your homepage, your website in general, just make sure that this thing looks great on a pad, on an iPad, on a laptop, on a desktop, of course, but it's actually most important that it looks good on a smartphone because that's what most people are using when they're scrolling and when they're Googling private schools near me. And then the second bonus tip is there's a book called Story Brand by Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. I did an episode back in episode 20 called Use the Power of Storytelling to Significantly Increase Retention. I will link that in the show notes. I'll link the book in the show notes as well. And it's just really using the power of story and putting the parent in that story as the hero, your school as the guide. You're positioning yourself as the guide. You're the guide that gives them a plan to help them succeed. And then you're painting a climactic scene that they can only achieve and accomplish by enrolling and having their child graduate from your school. And open loops. The brain hates open loops. And this power of storytelling can really, really draw people in. And in that book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, there's a whole chapter on how you can use the power of story to build your homepage of your website. So I think it's a very, very important book for private school leaders. And I'll link that in the show notes at theprivateschoolleader.com/episode 74. So what are the big takeaways from today's episode? First of all, the two things that a homepage is supposed to do: engage and inform visitors and provide clear direction. And then, does the homepage of your school's website answer these 5 questions? What do you do? What makes you unique? Why should I care? Will I fit in? And what do I do next? And again, those are pulled from a Final Site blog post that will be linked in the show notes. And you might want to check out finalsite.com. A lot of good resources there. I like to end every episode with a call to action. Your call to action for this episode is to take 20 minutes sometime in the next week, look at your homepage, and then ask yourself these 5 questions from this episode, and then jot down some notes, and then go from there. So look at your homepage, ask the 5 questions, see if it answers those questions. So let's wrap it up. I've created another resource for you as a thank you for listening to the podcast. It's called The Top 6 Ways to Protect Your School from a Lawsuit. This is a 10-page PDF that can help keep you and your staff safe and help keep your school out of court. No one wants to deal with litigation. It's time-consuming and expensive and stressful. And this is a common sense guide that can help you be more intentional and more proactive and protect your school from litigation. So that's over at theprivateschoolleader.com/lawsuit. Theprivateschoolleader.com/lawsuit. You can grab the 6 ways to protect your school from a lawsuit. And then finally, one more reminder that I've created an online course called Thrive Academy, and I can teach you how to have a long and happy and fulfilling career as a private school leader. And it's an online course with 7 modules and 39 lessons, 9 hours of content, an 86-page workbook. But what's most important is that it's not about the information, it's about the transformation, that you can go from where you are to where you want to be, thriving, feeling fulfilled, wanting to do this for a long time. If that's not how you're feeling right now, you might want to check out theprivateschoolleader.com/thrive and see if Thrive Academy is something for you. If you're getting value from the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. My email is mark.o.minkus@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode comes out every week on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Please review and rate the podcast so that the algorithm will push it out as a suggested podcast to private school leaders all over the world. We're in 53 countries now listening to the podcast. And if you got value, please, please, please share this with another leader that you know or an aspiring leader at your school. Share the link to this episode or just a link to the podcast. And I've been your host, Mark Minkus. I want to say how much I appreciate you and all of your hard work that you're doing at your school. Thank you so much for taking some precious time to join me here today. And I'll see you next time right here on the Private School Leader Podcast. And until then, always remember to serve first, lead second, and make a difference.